¿Qué hola, mi gente? Welcome back to my channel, friends. Welcome if you're new. My name is Desiree, aka Mama Friendly, and I do all sorts of videos on my channel. I do cooking videos, planner videos, I do vlogs, I do hauls and unboxings, I do homeschool videos with a Disney theme. I even recreate Disney park recipes in an allergy-friendly way. There's a little bit of everything here. So if any of this sounds like fun to you, I hope that you will subscribe and join my YouTube adventure. Speaking of allergy-friendly, this particular video is the latest installment of a series that I've been doing all year where I am taking beloved Cuban recipes and I am making them allergy friendly so that I can eat them. I'm doing this not only to, well, make the recipes more accessible for me and for other people like me that might have allergies, but also as kind of a challenge to myself to get back to my roots and kind of push myself to learn these recipes, because I've always had my abuelas cooking for me and my mom, and you know, I've always been surrounded by a lot of great cooks, but that means that I haven't had to learn to make these dishes myself. And so I want this year to be the year that I elevate my Cuban cooking and really sink into that part of my heritage and my culture. This month's recipe that I selected, I figured would be super easy because it is naturally gluten and dairy free, and so it should have been a breeze to just recreate it, right? Because I just have to cook it pretty much just as is. Oh, was I wrong? See, the thing about the recipe that I'm showing you how to make today, which is Garbanzo Frito, is that literally everybody and their mother has their own recipe and their own version of this. I asked my mom, I asked my abuela, I asked my dad, I asked my sister, I even looked up a few recipes online, and every single one was so completely different that I had a hard time deciding how I was even going to approach this recipe. So in the end, I took a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and I ended up making the dish in a way that was really, really tasty to me. And so I want to share it with you now. The great thing about Garbanzo Frito is that it's going to be a very budget-friendly meal, and it's made mostly with pantry staples. So it's something where if you're having a little bit of a leaner week, I know things are rough right now, you might have these ingredients on hand already, and if you don't, they're pretty easy to find, they're easy to have on hand, and they don't go bad for a while. So whenever you need to, you can make this meal. It's super hearty, there's so many flavors going on, and it fills you up, it goes a long way. So I feel like it was an appropriate time to share this recipe. It comes together really, really quickly too, which is a bonus. And Garbanzo Frito literally translates to fried garbanzos, or like fried chickpeas. It's a really easy saute of garbanzos and chorizo basically, but you add in all these different spices, you make a sofrito with your onions and your peppers and everything else, and it's just, again, super easy, super flavorful, and a great way to make your dollar stretch, which is super important these days. So with all that being said, let me show you how I made my Garbanzo Frito this month. So after talking to a handful of family members and looking up a bunch of stuff online, this is what I've decided that I'm gonna go with, and hopefully it works out. My dad insisted no tomato, and my sister doesn't use tomato, my mom doesn't use tomato, so no tomato then, fine. I'm gonna go ahead and use some red onion and some green bell pepper that I've already diced up. Actually, the onion already came diced, but my cutting skills are kind of garbage, as you guys might know by now, so all the help I can get. We have 1 can of garbanzo beans. I'm gonna use salt, oregano, garlic powder, some paprika, and cumin. And then we have our chorizos here. My dad practically begged me not to use this particular kind because he says that they're super, super, super greasy. So what I'm gonna do, instead of starting with the vegetables, I'm gonna actually dice up the chorizos and get them going on the heat, so that way if I have to drain some grease, I can do that before adding the veggies in. Lastly, I'm gonna throw in the garbanzos, drained of course, and then I'll just season to taste once everything comes up to heat. This is, in theory at least, let's see how it turns out, but this is so simple, so budget friendly, really hearty, and a great source of protein. So honestly, if you're on a budget, or if you're having a leaner sort of week or month as far as your budget is concerned, this is a fantastic meal to have in your arsenal. Let's get going. Now, before I get started doing anything else, I'm gonna go ahead and start my rice because this is what's gonna take the longest. Typically, this dish is served over white rice. And white rice is another thing that everybody and their mother has their own recipe, their own way of making this. This is the way that I was taught. First off, I'm using a rice cooker, which has definitely seen better days, but it still works. She's still kicking, so we're gonna keep using her. And I was taught to do a ratio of 1.5 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. So on this particular occasion, I've got 2 cups of rice and 3 cups of water going into the rice cooker. I'm also adding enough salt where the water actually tastes salty. And yes, I was taught to taste the rice water before you start the rice cooker. It's the only way you're gonna know that it's properly seasoned. Then you just close it, press the button for white rice, and voila, fresh white rice ready to be topped with our delicious garbanzo frito. So as I had already mentioned, I am going to start with the chorizo. I'm going to do my best to dice them up as tiny as I can manage with my subpar knife skills. But the reason I'm starting with the chorizo is because I want it to start rendering out some of its fat. And that way, if I need to drain some out, I can do that before I add the veggies in here to saute in the fat as well. And this is less of a fry, more of a saute throughout. Really, we're just kind of letting everything come to temperature and start to release some of its own flavors so that the flavors can start intermingling together. But everything is basically cooked or safe to eat raw-ish, so you don't have to worry too much about time or temperature here. It's just a matter of letting everything marry. So as you can see, after sauteing the chorizo for a little bit, it actually didn't release very much fat at all. I ended up adding a drizzle of olive oil, which definitely does not hurt because olive oil imparts a really nice flavor to this as well. So once I added that olive oil, I threw my bell pepper and my onions in here to saute. And again, we're just kind of letting everything kind of mingle and marry together here. And I know my dad insisted not these chorizos, but the reason I got these is because they're pantry stable. They're very easy to find. They're super cheap. I know that they're not the best quality, but this is an easy way to stock up on them and keep them in the pantry along with the garbanzos. And that way, all I need to buy on any given week if I want to make this dish is an onion and a bell pepper. Makes it super, super easy. And now I can tell you guys with certainty that this sausage is actually really, really good in this. So you can see while I've been talking, I've gone ahead and drained the can of garbanzos and thrown them into the pan. I've also gone and seasoned everything. Now I'm just kind of mixing it up, giving it a taste to make sure I don't need to adjust the salt or adjust for anything else. I'm a fan of making this very cumin heavy, but you go ahead and taste it and decide what you think it needs more of. Remember, you can always add, but you can't take away. So especially with the salt, go easy at first, give it a taste, and then adjust accordingly. But this is basically ready to go. So I've got my fresh white rice here. I'm gonna go ahead and ladle some of that garbanzo and meat and veggie situation on top. That's it. Super simple, extremely fast, and it was so, so, so tasty. I'm really glad that with all the mess of recipes out there, I managed to find something that really works for me and that I'm happy to serve. All right, friends, so there you have it. Like I said, I took a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and I ended up making something really easy, really fast, super cheap, and incredibly flavorful. It was even better the next day. It was super, super filling, and I absolutely am making this again. In fact, I've already made it a second time since I recorded that footage. Like everything else in the kitchen, you kind of just season until your ancestors yell at you, "Coño, ya hasta." So I'm sure that every time I make it, it's gonna be just a little bit different, but the base is there, right? Like you have the basic elements of the sofrito, the chorizo, the garbanzo. Everything else is up to you. It's up to your own interpretation. It's up to getting it as close to abuelas as you can make it, and everybody's abuela makes it different. So that's your journey to go on. But hopefully now that you've watched this video, you kind of have an idea of where to start. I would love to know how your family's version differs from the one I made today. And as always, I'm open to suggestions. If there's a particular recipe that you would like to see me try to recreate or adapt, if it's something that naturally has gluten or dairy in it and you want to see me try to make it allergy friendly, let me know and I will do my best to try to bring it to the channel for you guys. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope that you will please give it a big thumbs up. I'd also love it if you would subscribe and click that notification bell because I post at least 3 times a week and I wouldn't want you to miss a minute. Thanks so much again for watching and buen provecho!